All right, in our Biz Blitz tonight, time to blitz the rich. Illinois Governor Pat Quinn adding what he calls a millionaire's tax to the ballot in November to discourage encourage, I should say, actually would discourage a lot of folks, but encourage Democrats to come out and vote. Our all-stars, Steve, what he's talking about here is a 3% surtax on millionaires. I think the income tax in Illinois is 5%. This is making it 8%. He said that he would take it all back in a few years and rescind it. I don't know of many taxes that are ever rescinded once they're in place. But what do you think of that?
In politics, temporary means permanent. And the only time that it hasn't was in New Jersey where Chris Christie forcibly took a temporary tax and rolled it back and beat the legislature when they tried to veto it. But this is just Illinois going down the California grease trail. If you take the word grease and translate it into English, you get Illinois. And they have wrecked their pension system. They are driving businesses out of the state. Then they come up with these incentives to try to keep big businesses in while driving small businesses out. It's a treadmill, and the people of Illinois are losing, which is one reason why I think Quinn is in deep trouble.
You know, Mark, I think they're not all that far from Detroit. So I'm thinking you certainly realize what's been going on there, to not repeat the sins and maybe to wake up and address your unfunded pension liabilities. But I guess not.
Well, there's a reason why they don't have to. The Democrats have a supermajority in the legislature. Yeah. So they've got the suffering economy, as Steve had said. They are struggling through that. And so what do they talk about? How do they mobilize? How do they try to improve their chances this fall? But to mobilize the base around, this falsehood that started in 2012. Part of it is the state parties are pulling the 2012 Obama, campaign playbook. And they're looking at it and deciding, well, our economy is a wreck, so how do we rally the troops?
I always find it interesting to both of these gentlemen's point, Natalie, how creative the left can be when it comes to raising money. Not at all creative when it comes to try to reining it in. But this tax on millionaires, of course, that's not super creative. It's been there, done that, and mixed success with that. In fact, in Maryland, when they tried something pretty similar, it didn't raise nearly the revenue. In fact, it raised less revenue. So where is all of this going?
Well, it's a non-binding referendum question, so I think it's really more of a political stunt than anything else, more like a public poll question. But I wonder if the referendum question includes some information about how sometimes small businesses are subject to individual income tax codes. So the question here is really, do you understand tax policy? When you tax something, you get less of it. You get fewer millionaires in your state. You get fewer small businesses. You get less income when you tax income. So raising the income tax on people regardless of their income level is a bad move, and states do so at their own risk.
All right, on to issue two, guys. Hillary Clinton, speaking of rich, but so rich you can't even count. Take a look.
Do you know your net worth? Do you know how much money you have?
Within a range, yeah. I mean, we have two very nice houses, which we're very proud of, and not selling anytime soon. So
but
it's
millions.
Yes, indeed.
Not everyone knows their net worth. I mean, Hadley, so I'm going to give Hillary Clinton a pass on that, or keeping track of her homes. I just wish the media would have given the same pass to John McCain when he flooded on the number of homes he had, or Mitt Romney certainly on his wealth. But it's a very, very clear double standard when it comes to wealth and politicians running for office. I say you either be consistent and let it all pass, or you give them all a hard time.
Absolutely. I totally agree. When it comes to Hillary Clinton's wealth, I don't begrudge it at all. I wish her the best. You have two houses. Good for you. I think being rich or poor doesn't make you a good leader. But we have this identity politics largely coming from the left, where they believe that wealth is the result of luck or having good chance in your life. And the alternative point of view, of course, is that success is earned. When you believe that success is earned, you don't want to take it away and redistribute it to other people. So those are the two different views. They're very distinct. And that's why, unfortunately, the left gives their own rich people a pass.
Why is that, Steve?
Because they have the right views. It comes down to that. Right. If you're liberal, it shows you may be rich, but you're enlightened. You're out to help the people. You're a tribune of the people.
But they've had some of the richest candidates who've been in the White House. You talk John Kennedy and Franklin Roosevelt, yet they were cool.
But again, they're allegedly to help the people. Whereas if you're conservative and actually have policies, as Reagan did, that help the people, well, that means you're greedy, you're selfish, you're out to exploit the working class. And on it goes.
I'm wondering the way we caricature this to the way that the mainstream media does, Mark, because rich Republican guys are all but that monopoly dude, right? And the rich Democratic guys are all but saints. Why?
Right. Well, because, you know, it worked in 2012. Now this is just an extension.
Well, didn't Romney make it almost too easy? I mean,
sure, he played
the 47% remark. No one ever looked into that remark and said, forget about groups offended. How did it get to the point where 47%, nearly half of all Americans, were not paying income taxes?
That's right.
But we'd never let it get that far.
Consumers and producers. But here's the thing: I think as Americans, we should all celebrate the Clintons' wealth. I think that's a great story. I think the Clintons should come out.
I would want to become president just so that I could accumulate the wealth that you can leverage off that office.
I think they should come out of the closet as very rich Americans. In fact, I'll bet you that they secretly read the Wall Street Journal and Forbes magazine, right, in the dark with a flashlight.
I could see the Journal, not Forbes.
But I think
they certainly don't read the editorials.
No.
But, you know,
who's the charlatan who writes those?
Right. But because of Steve's point about Democrats and how they're supposed to be, you know, appearing, you know, in with the common man, she's in conflict, and she hasn't worked it out yet in the way she answered that question.
Does class warfare, though, it must poll well. That's all I can do, because they keep going back to it.
Well, when you have a stagnant economy, you get envy. And you try to stoke envy. We saw that in the 30s. We saw that in the 1970s. When you have a good economy,
and somebody you can point a finger at.
Somebody you can point a finger at. Scapegoating. When you have weak money, high taxes, you always blame somebody. We saw it in Germany. We saw it in other countries. And this guy's exacerbating, making worse these divisions, these social divisions. 1% versus the 99, 47% versus every young versus old. And that's the only way they can win. It's not prosperity they can win by.
You know, Hadley, the irony is that the gap between the rich and the poor, whatever you want to call it, has widened under this president who's been bemoaning it every hour of every day of his presidency.
Well, another famous, very well-spoken and right-thinking female politician, Margaret Thatcher, did the best job explaining this ever when she said you'd rather that the gap were wider and that people were all worse off. You'd rather the gap were smaller and people were all worse off than recognize that people are in charge of their own destinies. And as long as we give people equal opportunity, it's not a fixed pie economy. We can see economic growth and we can see more prosperity and wealth for everyone. So I would commend Margaret Thatcher. I'd commend all of her ideas to any politicians that follow in the United States. But Hillary Clinton clearly was not responded to. Where was the Occupy Wall Street movement when they were condemning the 1%ers? They aren't condemning Hillary here, but she really has a long way to go in terms of talking about her own wealth in a way that she can, you know, make it a part of her redistributive view of economic policy.
This is a huge opportunity for Republicans. Talk about Reagan-esque growth, instead of this trying to play to the divisions, middle class, and all that kind of warfare.
Yeah, proactively and with a smile.
Prosperity for all.
All right. Guys, thank you very, very much. Meanwhile, what is the